Aftershock. We are following a 3-1 loss to Real Salt Lake for the San Jose Earthquakes. 0 points on the road, gentlemen. Alex Morgan, Jamon Moore joining me to analyze the game tonight. I'm your host, Phillip Leyva. And Jamon, I'm going to kick it over to you first. Just your thoughts. The Quakes go out to Salt Lake. They get a couple players coming back from the U.S. national team. They have the game coming up against Monterey in the U.S. Open Cup. Kind of a lot of things happening with the team right now, a lot of things in motion. And in this match, they're unable to get the result despite the fact that at times they looked adequate. Your thoughts here?
I think that's the right word. They looked adequate for the first 70 minutes or so of the game. And, one of the things that they didn't really quite figure out is, the RSL press. It was not this high press. So when you watch the Earthquakes, you see them. They go out in this kind of high press. They try to get numbers pretty high up the pitch. And, they really try to win the ball up high. It's not what RSL does. And I think we're going to get into this tactically as to what they actually do. But, the way that that RSL, set up tonight made things look oftentimes like the Quakes just didn't have the numbers because of the way that RSL set it up. And in those odd number situations, RSL gets 3 goals.
And in this match here, Alex, in which the Quakes did have to kind of play out of the RSL press and had a really difficult time, capitalizing on the opportunities that they created. They do get the 1 goal from the Cristian Espinoza free kick. I'm curious, what are your thoughts after the match?
I'm glad you brought up the national team games and the U.S. Open Cup game against Monterey on Tuesday, because I'd rather think about anything else other than this game. This was probably one of the least fun Earthquakes games that we've watched this season. They had the chances. You had the Cade Cowell chance in front of goal early in the first half. You had the Bench Kikanovic chance on his left foot midway through the second half. They had the chances tonight to get a result, but they didn't dare them. And then Real Salt Lake have 2 gorgeous finishes from the top of the box, and that was enough to put them past the Quakes. And so offensively, I'm not as concerned because it still felt like they were creating opportunities going forward. It was defensively that concerned me today. And some of the commenters, I think, have picked up on it. There's a comment here that said those odd-numbered breaks brought back memories of the Almeida era. Oof. And it did feel sometimes like the Quakes were getting wrong-sided in transition in a way that they haven't been before this season. I think that Jonathan Mensah and Rodriguez have been really, really strong this season and have made things feel generally much more stable and less vulnerable at the back. Tonight, Real Salt Lake were able to find those pockets of space in behind. They were able to get in behind the Quakes on transition and make the Quakes look slow, look like they were a step behind the ball in a way that they haven't looked like before this season.
Let's talk about that a little bit, Alex and Jamie, because if you go back and watch that second goal, this was one of those chances created by RSL that we haven't seen a lot from the Quakes this season because they have been so calm and present when they have the ball. But Real Salt Lake was able to kind of just, from the back, delivering from the goalkeeper, push all the way through the pitch and get that second goal to put them in the advantage. The first goal, I think, was a little more fluky. I think, on the one hand, you had RSL pressing, and it caused Rodriguez to make the turnover, but we've seen him kind of make these mistakes in the season before. So I don't know that it was necessarily representative of the team's play as a whole, but that second goal, if we take a look at that was really troubling to me when I was watching the match. And then we saw something somewhat similar in the third goal as well, when Gomez takes the opportunity to score and put them 3-1, which pretty much at that point put the game out of reach for the Quakes. I don't think they just had it in them to score 2 to 3 goals to get a point here against RSL. So, Jamin, kind of looking at that second goal there, I'm curious as to what you think about why there were these defensive maybe misshape or difficulties that they were having, and finding what is usually a very present strong shape for the team and preventing their opponents from scoring.
Yeah, quite simply, the way that RSL set up was in more of a 4-4-2 mid-block, very standard stuff. What they do that's very different than what the Earthquakes do is they actually put all their numbers behind the ball. And they draw a line of a kind of demarcation of like when you get to this point, as you're trying to play out of the back, we're not going to press you, but when you dribble up the field, right, at a certain point, we're going to compress space and we're going to move to the ball quite often with a double team. And what Rodriguez found on the first goal is that when he stepped high with the ball and tried to make that incisive pass in the middle, the problem was as soon as RSL won it, he's committed forward and there's no structure in behind. It's not like Mensah had, come over because he saw, Rodriguez step forward. And, so what happened was, in effect, it turned into a 3v1 the other way because Mensah kind of got flat-footed with the rush. The ball got turned over, and Danny Musovski, who's, former, we've talked about this guy on the Black and Azul and on the Aftershock before. Every time he gets a chance to go against the Quakes, seems to make him pay for you guys didn't pick me up. Should have gotten me when you had the chance out of Reno. And he was part of that rush. I think he got the assist, if I remember right, on the first goal. It was a 3v1. And then on the second goal, there wasn't a lot of difference. It was, again, kind of that catching the Quakes a little bit too forward, not enough structure behind. You make a bad pass in that central midfield spot, one quick ball out, and you're free. Jefferson Savarino with a very classic cut on the inside. When you get when you get 1v1 with an outside back, cut on the inside, because the outside back's job typically is going to be to guard against you going to the outside, and they're going to try to take away the cross. And he sees that Akapo leans a little bit to the right, boom, goal. And well taken shot. I think JT should have expected that back post shot a little bit better. But,
Jamon, interested to hear you say that, because I know Alex has been critical of JT Marcinkowski on those shots this season. This is not the first time we have seen JT miss those back post shots coming across the body from the attackers. Alex, I'm curious as to what your response is to what Jamon just said about JT's read.
You have it completely backwards, Phil. I've been defending JT this whole season. And Jamon Moore has been defending Danielle this whole season. I find that comment hilarious, just because every single time that I've raised a criticism that earlier this season when Danielle was starting and he was letting
to go back and find the tape, Alex.
I hope we have the receipts here, because Jamon was always the first to say he's never going to criticize keepers for those those tough to save shots, for the Thiago Almada free kick, for the Thiago Almada volley. Jamon was very, very reluctant to criticize in that situation, when I think these were objectively better shots that were hit from Real Salt Lake today. It was
a good shot. No, look, Severino's shot is a good shot. It is a potentially savable shot. If you understand, he's cutting on the inside. That ball is 9 times out of 10 going to go to that back post on a curler, and it wasn't an outside-in curler. It was within the frame of the goal. That's partially a goalkeeper position issue.
I'm curious what the fans have to say.
I'm not saying it's all JT's
Jamon,
fault.
well, I think we have to let the fans.
Let me say this though. Up until those moments, it felt to me like JT was having a pretty strong outing. He had made 2 saves on 2 mistakes that the team had made. Right, they were playing on the back foot. They got past the defenders, and JT did save them when RSL had those opportunities. And I would say that his distribution was pretty great throughout the match. But to say that he's at fault on those goals, I don't know if I agree.
It's exceedingly.
I didn't say at fault. I said it could have been better.
I disagree, Jamon, and I think the bigger problem was higher up the field. The bigger problem was that the Quakes were leaving large gaps of space at the top of the box, places where you'd usually expect Jonathan Mensah and Rodriguez to step to the ball and to block those shots and to get tight to their men. They weren't doing that in this game. They were allowing those spaces.
Alex, I think you can make the argument that Carlos Gruezo is also very present in those spaces for the Earthquakes, and that was one of the substitutes that we saw in the match. He got subbed out, and I think I have it down for we have it down for Buda. So that was just like a shift in the approach that I think Luchi was taking in the attack, right, moving from a more defensive to a more attacking. But curious as to what you think there, Alex. Carlos Gruezo is the sub here. Is this a matter of like he is still recovering perhaps from the earlier injury that he had, or was this just simply a matter of Luchi having a tactical change here in the match?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Quakes just don't have much depth at this point, and a lot of the players are running on fumes. So I'm not super concerned about the substitution patterns that are happening. I think Luchi Gonzalez has shown that he is more than capable of making the correct in-game decisions. So I'm not particularly concerned about that. I think that the Quakes will need to add more depth in the summer transfer window. I think that's become increasingly clear that they might need to consider adding another piece on that left side of the attack, and they might need to add another midfielder. But I'm not concerned about the in-game substitutions in this one. The thing I do want to say
it was Judson, by the way, who came on for Carlos Gruezo. So I just want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to see that Judson is increasingly getting back to fitness, and I at the beginning of the season I would not have trusted Judson to step in a late game situation, and I think that now he's been more consistent, and I don't think the problem today was in the midfield. I think the problem today was with the back line. I think that Jonathan Mensah looked a step off the pace. He was getting turned in ways that we haven't seen before. He looked a little slow on some of those defensive transitions. He's usually been able to keep pace, but there were a couple times where he just kind of lost his man that was running in behind. So that surprised me. And then Rodriguez just got caught out too often. I mean, we've applauded him in past weeks because of the way that he's been able to step out of the back, beat the first man with the dribble, and then spray those passes in behind. But Real Salt Lake predicted that really well, and they cut out that option. Rodriguez was not able to step into the middle, break that line, and connect the pass, and that was, made life difficult for the Quakes, and gave Real Salt Lake the opportunity to get him behind. And I think we're going to the presser now with Luchi Gonzalez.
I think it might be, yeah.
Hey, Luchi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we'll get started. This is tonight's press conference with head coach Luchi Gonzalez. Let's begin with the first question from Jamon Moore. Go ahead, Jamon.
Unmuted.
Hey, Luchi. Obviously, not the best result tonight, but part of the game, looked pretty good. It looked like you guys were going to be in it until close to the end, and then they had a couple moments of quality there. How do you assess this type of game? On the road with a bit of altitude and your performance tonight. Thank you.
Muted.
Yeah, I agree. I thought we were in it. I thought we responded well second half, getting the early goal. And you actually said it yourself. Moments of quality. I thought they showed some individual moments of quality in putting away their chances, whereas we didn't put our chances on target and create danger. We created plays that were dangerous, but the end product, the last quality action, we fell short. So, I think the positive is we can compete against anybody, anywhere, any day. But to win these kind of games away in a venue like Salt Lake, we have to execute and kill in our chances, and we did not. So, let's work. Let's keep getting better. Our foundation is very good, and we know we can do that against anybody. But it didn't happen tonight. And congrats to Salt Lake. I would say expected goals were the same to like the 79th minute, where I thought we could have tied the game 2-2. In fact, we created some good quality chances before their third goal, but didn't bounce our way.
Thank you, Luchi. Jamie, did you have a second question?
Unmuted.
I do. I wanted to just quickly ask about, Open Cup, since we won't get to talk to you ahead of that, Luchi. Obviously, you got the midweek game, and then you got that's on the road, and then on the road again to Austin. What's your philosophy, particularly this season with you guys sitting in 5th place in the West? Obviously, the MLS, getting in the playoffs is your number one goal here. But, how do you approach Open Cup? Is this going to be an opportunity for some of the guys who don't get to start to get a chance to prove themselves? Or is it something where, a few wins and you get a chance to get some silverware? Like, what's your approach? Thank you.
Muted.
Yeah, the approach is clear. It's a cup that we value a lot. We take a lot of pride in. We want to compete and win it. We know it's going to be very difficult. It's an exciting cup when you get to play the clubs from the different levels, and there's going to be a lot of motivation, obviously, behind Monterey Bay, a local team. We played them in preseason. It was a very challenging game. Frank Yallop's the coach, an icon of San Jose. So, and it'll be an honor to coach against him again in an actual game that counts. So we're looking forward to it. We want to. We're not happy with tonight, but we want to have a short memory and move forward and respond on Tuesday and show our depth. And yeah, obviously there'll be some adjustments. Not clear what they are yet. We've got to assess our guys here after this game. But we're gonna put a team on the field from start to finish that we believe can win and get us through the next round. And we're going to show a lot of importance and urgency in this next game against Monterey Bay.
Next up, Alex Morgan.
Hi, Luchi. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to speak to you. I'm wondering about some of those defensive transitions. Felt like there was a lot of space in behind, in front of the center backs in those channels that there hasn't been in previous games. And I'm wondering, why you think that was the case, whether it was, their two up top and in that shape making it difficult for you, or some other reason that those spaces were getting created.
Yeah, look, I think RSL are a good team in transition. They play forward quickly. They have quick players with speed and can hurt you with open space. So we saw that on tape, and we knew that was going to be a challenge. I thought we had good control of it for majority of the first half until we conceded on that type of play. So, it's also a giveaway in our buildup, where I thought we could have been more connected, and we were too expansive with our fullbacks and our midfield, and we didn't have numbers around the ball. We didn't circulate the ball in a way that I thought was secured it and allowed us to play forward. So, it's something that we discussed at half. I thought we adjusted it well to start the second half, but as the game went on, especially when we scored, they were going to push numbers. They were going to play through their two forwards, like you've mentioned, and yeah, that's something we need to improve, so that we can control those transition moments better defensively.
And Alex, I believe you have a second question, so go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking another one, Luchi. Lots of goals coming from the right side with Cristian Espinoza. He gets another one tonight. Jeremy Abobasi, with the two last weekend. Cade Cowell and Benji Kakanovic had both had opportunities on the left side. They both had good looks in front of goal today, but neither of them have been able to find the back of the net. Do you think it's a matter of time? Do you think it's something about the way that the team is building up the ball? What do you think about that left side of the attack? And would you like to see more production from that side in terms of goals?
Yeah, look, it's easy to see from an analytics standpoint in terms of production, but it's important. We're human beings. This is a team. It's about the collective. And Cade's performance last week was fantastic in terms of setting up teammates and being decisive. And Benji's working hard and earning his opportunities. So, we're going to keep working. We're going to keep believing. This is our group. This is our team. And it's not about who gets the glory, but we definitely want to continue to work on being more efficient and turning expected goals into actual goals. And I think home we've been efficient, and we'll continue to do that with our fan base and our fortress and our family at home but away we want to show the same. We want to show that there's the game is the game. It's 11 players against 11 players, one ball, and how can we have the same level of confidence, conviction to put away our chances as whoever it is. But we'll keep working. Those are young players. Their intentions are good. They're trying to do the right things, and when they keep doing that, those habits can turn into an end product, and we believe in that.
Thank you. Let's take tonight's final question from Fabian Brankel. He asks, with the upcoming game on Tuesday against Monterey Bay FC, are we going to see new faces or rotations in the squad for that upcoming fixture? Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see some changes from tonight, but you also see some same faces. So, we're a team of 20-plus players that compete every week in, week out, and we need to show that in our different competitions. And for us to achieve our objectives at the end of this season, we need everybody. Everybody's important. Everybody's competing, and we'll have some modifications for Tuesday. But again, it'll be a lineup that we believe from start to finish can get the job done. So we're excited for that opportunity.
Thank you, Luchi, and thank you everyone for your questions. We'll be bringing out a select player here in a couple minutes.
Good night, guys.
I love that first and foremost, Luchi acknowledged the history with Frank Yallop being one of the legendary coaches of the Earthquakes and talking about how that matters going into this match. So he's definitely done his homework, he knows the team really well, right? That's one thing that I think a lot of folks appreciate about Luchi Gonzalez. Jamon, you had asked particularly about this game coming up on Tuesday against Monterey Bay FC. Luchi first states kind of that, this is ongoing, that not exactly clear what the adjustments are, but then kind of as the press conference was going on, saying that perhaps there will be some new faces that we see and some of the same faces. Just curious as to what you think about his response there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's probably a little bit more typical coach speak. Everyone says that they want to win, and that they're going to put out a lineup that they think can win. But at the same time, there will be some new faces, and I think it's a real opportunity. And there should be some pressure on some of these players, from the bench side to get a start and to produce against a USL side. You should be able to show that you've got that level of quality in MLS players. And so, for these younger players, whether that means now Benji gets a start, Aseni Buddha gets a start, maybe we see a little bit more, some difference like Judson getting some time. I think that's an important thing. Miguel Trauco getting some time, that's an important thing. These are players who, one injury away from, being a regular starter for very good reasons. And they have been starters in the past, right? So, this is an opportunity to put out some of those, faces that have not gotten enough time this season. We saw players like Jack Skane really step up last year, hit free kicks, took penalties and converted those. And, this team went into Starfire, a place that teams don't win very often in Open Cup. Just once before in the Red Car Wedding game, had they been beaten at Starfire, and the Quakes did it last year, and they did it mostly with bench players, a lot of the same bench players. So, it'll be interesting to see, who gets put out there, but I think we should expect some rotation. And, I personally would not go all in on Open Cup. I think right now the focus for this team needs to be, making the MLS Cup playoffs. Trying to get some points in Austin would go a long way toward that. You got to face LAFC twice coming up, the Galaxy coming up. Seattle's not that far away. There's a really tough stretch here, and you need to get points against a team that's lower down on the table than you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I agree here, Alex. I saw you kind of like you were a little.
Hey, go ahead, rain all over it, guys. I don't care.
In terms of the U.S. Open Cup and how much this means, I mean, it is the shortest path to a trophy, to a CONCACAF Champions League berth. Like, there are a lot of things that the Quakes can get out of this. I get where you're coming from with like them making the run towards the MLS Cup, but going into this match, Alex, considering what you heard from Luchi in the press conference, some of the stuff that Jamon just said about preparing for this match, perhaps. Players like Oseni Buddha getting time, maybe Daniel or Emi Ochoa perhaps getting that opportunity as well, considering, whatever Daniel's health status is with the team. We know that he's making the 18. Kind of your thoughts about the U.S. Open Cup, what this means for the Quakes, and how they should approach this match against Monterey Bay FC.
Let me lay it out, Phil. Here's where we're at. The Quakes last season got embarrassed by the Sacramento Republic in the U.S. Open Cup. They had a good first round against the Sounders, and then they went to Sacramento, and they played with a pretty strong roster, and Sacramento destroyed them. It was a very comprehensive 2-0 victory, and I was there, and it was embarrassing for the Quakes because they very clearly didn't take that game seriously enough, and they weren't mentally prepared for that game. And they had a significant traveling contingent of fans who were not happy with that result and were left very disappointed. This is a local game. They're playing against Monterey Bay. There will be many Quakes fans at that game, and they need to go and they need to honor the fans that are traveling for that game, and they need to advance to the next round of the Open Cup because they owe it to the fans for the way that they went out of last year's Open Cup in the round of 16 against Sacramento Republic, one of their, Northern California rivals. And Sacramento was a good team that year. They went, toe-to-toe with the LAFC and they went on a strong run. But whenever you're playing against your Northern California rivals, the Quakes should expect to win, and they should take it seriously. So I think the Quakes have some, some catch up to do and need to show the fans this year more so than ever that they're going to take the Open Cup seriously.
But let me challenge it a little bit. But go ahead, Phil, because you haven't gotten a chance to comment on this.
Well, all I was going to say about that, Jamon, was the surprising thing about the Quakes and how they played in Sacramento last season was that this came off of like a huge victory against Seattle, as you had mentioned. But just to refresh folks' memory about that match, this is the one that went like 10 deep into penalty kicks at the end of the match, and Matt Bersano was the one who won the game for the Earthquakes. So like this was a huge run for the Quakes, and then for them just to get stunted by Sacramento Republic, who is not even a top-tier side in American soccer, to get ousted by them was quite embarrassing. And to have so many Quakes fans go to Sacramento and have that happen, like, would hate to see that be repeated with a trip to Monterey Bay FC. But Jamon, if you want to chime in on this,
let's come back. Let's come back to this. Let's come back to this. Let's talk about who should be playing in that game, and if you think it's a good idea from a potential injury risk perspective against a lower side who is going to play you physical. Let me repeat, they are going to play you physical. Whenever an inferior side takes on a superior side in a cup game like this, you can bet there's going to be some hard tackles. I don't want Gruezo touching the pitch. I don't want Mensah touching the pitch. I don't really want Rodriguez touching the pitch. I don't want Abobisi, honestly, touching the pitch. Let it be, Benji. Let it be Buddha. I don't want Abobisi on that pitch. I don't really want to see Espinoza maybe after the 80th minute. If you need to get a goal, maybe Espinoza then. I don't really want to see him starting. I don't want to see those guys going into a situation where players who have slower reactions to situations are going to take dumb fouls and purposeful fouls in some cases, and you're going to end up in a yellow card tainted game, and you're going to end up with a bunch of injuries. And then that's going to ruin the rest of this road trip and the next game against LAFC at home, so for me, I don't want those guys on the pitch. If it's everybody else, fine.
Jamon, this begs the question, are the players that...
Oh, also, I don't want to see Jackson Yule out there either.
Okay. Are the players that
Jamon wants the Quakes to play with 8 players, is what I've gathered. None of the starting players.
No, I just you didn't need him last. You didn't need him last year to win at Starfire. You don't need him to go win in Monterey.
So then you just answered the question. Then are guys like Tanner Beeson, Judson, Oseni Buddha, Jack Skane, can they come through and get the win at Monterey Bay FC?
Yes,
that's the question. Yeah,
can they?
Do you agree? Yes. You think they can go in there with guys who aren't in the regular starting 11 and get the points?
I think that they can, but I still think that. And look, it's an opportunity for guys like Tanner Beeson, who haven't been seeing as many minutes, to step up. I think he should definitely be in the starting lineup. It's an opportunity for guys like Baldissimo, who we know can do it at the MLS level and who aren't getting a ton of minutes, to step in and win. But I don't want to act like this is this is a friendly. Like this game has meaning for the Earthquakes.
Not a
and
friendly.
This game is important to win. And
Not
so
a
those
friendly,
guys
but
should
be
be in the
smart.
roster. And if they need to be subbed in at halftime because the Quakes don't have a solid lead, I think that's the right call to make. I don't think they should be starting, but I think they should be ready to play significant minutes in the second half if they have to. And I feel like that's a reasonable balance that the fans can appreciate and respect, is to start with those guys like Tanner Beeson, Baldissimo, maybe Tommy Thompson at outside back, Benji Kikanovic for sure, who hasn't had a ton of starts this season. And then at halftime, if they're not up by 1 or 2 goals in that situation, then you have to put on guys like Espinoza. Then you have to put on guys like Trauco and De Capo, who can go in and get the victory. And I feel like the Quakes have to be willing to take this game seriously enough because they owe it to the fans to do that.
Lindsay's got it right. Lindsay's got it right. That's where Nathan got hurt. He's out for the season. Do you want that to happen to another starter on this team? Not me.
Well, if we get another Jonathan Mensah type, then I guess it would be okay. All right, let's go back to our conversation about the
Windows closed. So
the RSL game here.
Good luck on that.
So
Windows reopening very soon, Jamin, and I've already mentioned once this show.
I'm not serious.
But I think they need some more
obviously, I don't want any
reinforcements.
Quakes players to get hurt. If we talk about the
Benji at the Niner on the left's a great question,
I
by
want
the
to go
way.
back to the question you asked Luchi, Jamon. You asked him about the inability for them to or at least what he saw offensively for the Quakes. And one of the things he said was we didn't put our chances on target. We created plays that were dangerous, but we fell short. To me, this is a concern going into the match against Monterey Bay. If, the starting players aren't finishing these opportunities, if they're not creating the dangerous opportunities, can we rely on the bench players to do so? And then further looking into the regular, MLS Cup matches as well. So I'm curious as to what you think about his response there. I mean, do you feel confident that the team can come back and start to put more goals into the net? Because we saw earlier this season they really struggled to score from open play.
Well, the answer is yes, because almost always, things regress back to the mean, and the expected goals, as Luchi indicated, are good enough. They're good enough on the road. They're definitely good enough at home. This team should be able to get points on the road, and it's a matter of time. Look at what's happened with other players, last year, where people were Dennis Boenga. People were writing him off left and right at LAFC because he wasn't scoring the goals last year. Look at what's happened this year. Things always tend to come back. You get yourself in the right position. Cade Cowell getting himself into that position. Eventually, Cade Cowell scoring the goal tonight. He wrong-footed it tonight. I have no idea what he was doing, trying to get them on the left side, going to the opposite side of the goal. You come across with your right. You're right-footed. You come across the goal and you bang it into. You make the goalkeeper go this way and then back this way. He just completely wrong-foots that shot. All he's got to do is take his right foot and hit that ball hard. That ball's in the back of the net pretty easily, unless you hit it right at the keeper.
Jamin, we've been saying that for multiple years though, and it's not like these guys are machines and that they're always gonna sort of regress to the mean and will start finishing these chances. These are humans, and I think there are reasons why they're underperforming in front of goal. I think there are reasons.
And there are reasons.
And I think that's because I just don't think that Cade Cowell has the finishing chops right now. And
How old is Cade Cowell again?
I don't think he has the confidence.
Where's
right
this
now.
coming from? Those two guys scored 10 goals last year. Where's this coming from? They have done it before. It's not like they've never done it before. They did it last year. The players go through this. They will get the form back. You keep running them out there. You keep putting the confidence in the players. What are you going to do?
Benji Kikanovic's confidence right now is very clearly shot. He has not looked confident on the field at all this season.
And Open Cup is a great time to put him out there to get that confidence back.
Look, I think it's worth asking whether he's a guy that is fitting into a Luchi Gonzalez team, because all the previous stats that you've been talking about, those 10 goals, that was in a Matias Almeida system with lots more space.
No, it wasn't. It was an Alex Cavello system.
Alex Cavello and Matias Almeida. So that was in a previous system.
No, they didn't score. They didn't score under Almeida. They scored their goals under Cavello.
Look,
very similar system.
I think it's reasonable to ask whether they are the right guys to have on this team at left wing, and whether you need another option on the left side of the attack in this summer transfer window. Not only because they're underperforming, but also to motivate them, also to give them put a fire in their hearts in order to get them performing. Right? I think that they need some competition.
Hey, Jackson, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's get started. We have midfielder and team captain Jackson Ewell. Let's start with the first question from Alex Morgan.
Hi, Jackson. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to talk to you. Take us through this one. It seemed like there were some tough moments in defensive transitions and too much space, in and around that those channels and in the back line. What did they do to make it difficult for you in those defensive moments? And then going forward, was it just unlucky, or why wasn't the team able to convert some of those chances?
Yeah, I think it's one of their strengths. They have fast forwards. They look to kind of rapidly, and I think we knew that, and I think we could have been better in those moments. I think we pride ourselves on being a compact team, a team that doesn't allow chances to be created through those this year, but they're able to find a way to do it. So I think it's keep doing what we've been doing. I think it was a little bit too spacious. I think we could have been tighter between our lines, and maybe could have prevented it. But again, I think they have fast players and good players that can hurt you in those moments.
Next up, Jamon Moore.
Unmuted.
Hey, Jackson. Sometimes tonight it also felt like they were able to play through the lines a little bit too easily. Was part of that because you guys were pushing forward to get your own goal, and then they had it created that kind of space for them, or was there at times where you're having trouble kind of compressing the space to make it more difficult for them? Thank you.
Muted.
I think with Ruiz's ability to pass the ball, I think it's difficult to get pressure on him because he can hit the long balls and kind of spread the team out, and then they're able to find Savarino in the pocket on a few occasions. Yeah, I think overall I think we could have been more compact in between our lines. I think that's how they broke us for the goals, and it's definitely something to look at. But I think this year I think we've been very, very positive in that way. Not allowing central passes and kind of denying a lot of these opportunities. So definitely one to look at, because I think we did make some mistakes in some of our press, and they capitalized on those moments.
Thank you, Jackson. And this last question comes from Fabian Renkel. He asks, how does the team feel despite tonight's loss going into Monterrey, having already played there at their home turf during preseason?
Yeah, I mean, it was a preseason game. We know that even it's a good stadium. It's they're going to be a hard opponent. They're going to be up for it, and we're going to have to recover in these 2 days to get guys on the field and be as prepared as we can. We're going to take it very seriously because it's an important tournament, as always, and another opportunity for guys to get minutes and to play, and a good opportunity to respond after this. So yeah, we're excited for a new tournament to start.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jackson, for your time, and thank you everyone for the questions. Safe travels home.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a moment to reflect a little bit on what Jackson said here before we kind of wrap things up tonight. One of the things that Ewell stated very clearly was how spacious it was, and that was one of the differences for the team. They lacked the compact nature of their defensive shape, which I think you both kind of alluded to earlier in the show, especially you, Alex, as you were talking about how it was a reminder of the Matias Almeida days, and there was a little bit of the anxiety there, right, about the openness of the play. But on the other hand, though, that's kind of what created the opportunity in the beginning of the match as Espinoza found Cade Cowell on that cross that we were just talking about before we cut over to the Jackson Ewell segment of the press conference. So I would like to hear your guys' reaction here to what Yule is talking about. Is it as clear cut as this, or do you see a little bit more to it? Jamon, I'll kick it over to you first.
Clear cut is what, Phillip? Sorry.
Oh, just saying that Jackson said that the game was too spacious.
Oh.
They were not playing compact enough.
Yeah.
And with the speed that RSL has, with some of the talent that
Yes.
they have on the counterattack, that's what led to the loss.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Luchi talked about it already. Kind of gave us the hint toward the answer. When you're playing a team that compresses the space the way that RSL does, and you have the style of attack that the Quakes do, in which the overloads on the wings are pretty important, particularly when it comes to trying to free up, Cristian Espinoza. When you get too spread and the ball's in the middle of the pitch, you run that risk. And because they are compact and you are not compact, you have no. And what Luchi trying to say was, try the ball that we played. If Roger played that ball to Gruezo and try to break a line there, what we have to do is make sure that we've got our numbers more compact to be able to do that. We don't have to play direct there. We can go wide. We can always come back, right? And then we can go wide again. So I think that was kind of the leading thing that we got already out of Luchi. And then Jackson basically said, yeah, we were too spread out. And it happened multiple times. Now, some of that is, the tactics, they were already informed with the tactics that they needed to play a certain way. So there's some certain mental mistakes in there. You're getting toward the end of a half. You are playing at a bit of elevation. Usually what we've heard before is about 30 minutes in, you really start to feel it in RSL, in their stadium. You start to feel that elevation, and that's when the mistakes can start to set in. And it wasn't too long after that the first goal came. So, a lot of that was, mental mistakes. How much of it due to elevation or whatnot? Hard to say. We didn't ask that particular question to Jackson, but it's important that you stay on top of those things. And then, obviously, when you get down a goal, you are sometimes, going to press. You are sometimes going to commit numbers forward. The last goal is more or less a product of committing those numbers forward, trying to chase back and get the draw. But but the first couple goals were completely mental type mistakes.
I'm not sure if I buy the excuse that it's elevation though, because this is
I didn't say it's. I said it might be.
But here's the thing, Jamon. This is the fourth road game that the Quakes have played this season. How many wins do they have in those road games?
But this
0.
is the first game at elevation.
And in all of those games, the Quakes have looked like they could get a result. In the game against Atlanta, they looked like it could get a result. In the game against the Red Bulls, it looked like they could get a result. The only one where they were really outclassed was the St. Louis game, and so they're really struggling on the road this season. It's concerning because they're going to need to pick up a few points within these next stretch of 4 games in order to maintain the momentum that they have. They're going to have a really tough stretch, facing LAFC twice, going on the road, and they're going to need to pick up some results. I was the one who said I think the Quakes need 7 points out of this stretch of 5 games in order to really feel like they've been successful, and that means they need 2 wins and a draw out of the next 4 games, and it's going to be tough for that to happen. I think that this was a game where the Quakes really wanted to go out and get a result because of how tough this stretch of fixtures is going to be.
I'm going to challenge you on that. I don't think that's a realistic number. If you just look in MLS in terms of the averages, it's 4 points out of 4 road games. 7's a super high bar. You're saying you're going to get those points from a win, a draw on the road, and you're going to get 3 against LAFC at home. That's a really high bar, Alex.
Jamon, I think that the Quakes need to be shooting for more than the MLS average. I think the MLS average is a really bad standard of success for this team to have this season, because I think that this team is better than the average MLS team.
But you're setting.
I think they should hold themselves to higher expectations, and I think that it is not unreasonable to to expect them to get 2 wins out of 5 in order to call it a success, right?
It's not
what is the
analyst,
baseline. The baseline is probably like 5 points. The baseline is probably maybe 6
4.
points.
I already gave you the number. It's 4.
Fine. The baseline is 4 points. But in order to call it a success
would
I
be
think
5.
they need to get 6 or 7 points. I think that the Quakes have that capacity this season. You saw how dominant they were against Sporting KC last weekend. You saw the quality that they have. And RSL is not far above them in the table. I think that this is a game that the Quakes should be doing better in, and the Quakes should be getting more than 5 or 6 points. I'm sick of playing it on the margin. We've done that for the last 9 years that I've been covering this team.
They're not playing on the margin.
What's the average? And the Quakes can do marginally better than that. I'm expecting this team to go out and
they're not playing on the margin. By the way, fans should tune into 3-1 losses all the time, because this is when we have some of our most fun shows.
Yeah.
No, they're not playing on the margins. They've won 4 of 5 at home. That's not on the margins. They're significantly ahead of where they're supposed to be. So they can afford to play on the margins on the road.
Gotta say, I agree with Jamon on this one, Alex. I hear what you're saying, though. It's disappointing to see the team lose this often on the road.
Ben's correct, by the way. No one in the locker room is going out there in any given game going like, you know what, we only need 4 points out of this stretch, boys. They're going to go for it every game. I'm just telling you what reality is. I think you set yourself up for significant disappointment when you set a bar at 7 points.
I think I've set myself up for significant disappointment by covering the earthquakes.
Gentlemen,
so I'm prepared for significant disappointment. I am completely and utterly prepared for that, and I'm still going to expect that of the team.
Yeah. So look, Luchi says that he's going to stay the course. You asked him about Cade Cowell, Alex, and he said that Cade's impact has been important. He's not getting the statistics right. He says, not necessarily looking at it from that analytic point of view. He's looking at it a little bit different in his contribution to the team in other ways. And so, I think Luchi is kind of maybe siding a little bit more with Jamon here, and that they're going to stay the course. They are not on the I don't think that they're on the margins. I completely disagree with that. I think Jamon does, and I think Luchi would disagree with that as well.
Daniel knows.
So, yeah, I think so. Thank you, Daniel, for that input. But why don't we go ahead and go to the final segment of the show? It's been really enjoyable despite the 3-1 loss. The energy's been great tonight, guys. Alex, let's start with you. Your final thoughts as the Quakes go over to the U.S. Open Cup, the game against Monterey Bay FC, and subsequently the game against Austin on the road. What do you think?
Look, this game was disappointing. This is a game that I'd rather forget about. And so I'm glad that they have the U.S. Open Cup game on Tuesday, because that's going to be a fun one no matter what happens. If they win, they're in the next round of the U.S. Open Cup. They're one step closer to a trophy. If they lose, then it's going to be a fun Aftershock show, and that's when the real fireworks will start on the Aftershock. So I'm excited for that game, the first midweek game we've had this season. So I think the energy will be really fun. I am expecting a large traveling contingent of Quakes fans at that game, and I know that the Quakes had a preseason game there this season as well, that I heard really great things about. So really excited for that game, and cautiously optimistic about the next 4 games in Major League Soccer, because it's gonna be a tough stretch of games, with those games on the road, with those games against LAFC, and I think the Quakes can get results, but they need to prove that they can do it on the road, because 0 out of 4 wins on the road in their first 4 road games this season is not good enough. And tonight saw some issues with the defense that we haven't seen before from Rodriguez and Jonathan Mensah. The first time we've seen them look like they were a step behind. And then on the left wing, need more finishing. If those chances had gone in from Benji Kikanovic and Cade Cowell, we'd be sitting here talking about a different game. So excited for what's to come despite the loss tonight.
Jamon Moore.
Yeah, look, it's kind of a road game in MLS. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to finish those chances that you get in the game. The ones that, Cade Cowell got early in front of the net has to be finished, right? The one that Benji Kikanovic had that, could have gotten the Quakes back in it has to be finished. So absolutely, Luchi kind of came on and said the same thing. Look, we had the chances. We didn't finish them tonight. We got punished for not finishing them. And it's exactly what happened. So, is anything like broken? No. I actually don't even really agree with Andy's comment here. I actually thought Jibo was very connected tonight. He dropped back and got on the ball quite a bit. If you throw Chris Wondolowski out there, I guarantee you he gets less than half the touches that Ebobisse did. I thought and sometimes to his detriment, sometimes he's dropping back and he's not really able to get back forward, kind of where I would like him to be. But to his credit, he's finding ways to kind of get involved on the ball. He created, a shot by trying to dribble through a couple players tonight that, wasn't that far off, honestly. I thought he did a decent job on hold up play. And I think he's been decent. I'm not saying like he's the best hold up player in MLS. I think he's pretty good. So honestly, there's a lot to still like. You would like to see them go into Monterrey now and create some momentum. They need that confidence that they can win a road game, even if it's an Open Cup game. And then you carry, that confidence, you get some players going, and you carry that into Austin, and hopefully it continues.
All right, I would like to direct folks to quakesepicenter.com. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel if you're not already on there with us right now. There was some midweek content that was put out with Dom Skipper from Quakes After 90, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you subscribe to Quakes After 90 as well. Great conversation between Dom and Jamon, very worth tuning into. I do want to also mention on quakesepicenter.com you can find the salary spreadsheet that was compiled by Colin Etner. There it is on the bottom of the screen. You can also find our Patreon where you can contribute to our show so you can help us to continue making this content, doing some of the wonderful things like Alex and Jamon did earlier this year at the Coachella Valley, where they were reporting on the pregame matches. This helps us to provide that sort of content in addition to the stuff that we provide throughout the season. So make sure you check that out. Alex, what you got?
Well, I was hoping my Coachella Valley Soccer Invitational Media Pass would get me into the Coachella Music Festival.
We'll get you into Coachella.
Didn't work. Didn't work.
Hey,
I showed up with my Quake season pass. They weren't hearing it.
Guys who normally tune into Quakes Epicenter, into the Aftershock, the Ponce brothers, Arky and Angel, are at Coachella right now, and they are enjoying Bad Bunny. So I wanted to say what's up to them. Also, just again, make sure you check out the midweek content. And I did have one last thing I wanted to say, because this was something that's been really frustrating for a lot of fans in the Bay Area, and I think it is relevant to Quakes fans as well. And this is the ongoing situation with the Oakland Athletics. Look, I'm not going to go that far into it, but I will say that it is incredibly frustrating and disgusting that the Quakes and the Oakland Athletics have an owner who is willing to sell off the best players, raise the ticket prices, continue to play in a dilapidated stadium, and then blame all of the issues with the Oakland Athletics on the fans. To see that, and then on top of all of that, the comments from Mark Davis from the previous Oakland Raiders and the current Las Vegas Raiders. Again, John Fisher, owner of the Oakland Athletics, trying to move him to Las Vegas, owner of the San Jose Earthquakes. Guys, this is something that we need to be watching out for. I know that a lot of fans have been up in arms about Fisher and the way that he's been running this organization, and I think it's important that it's something that us as Quakes fans, even though we have a new stadium that's been here for less than a decade, is something that we need to be very aware of. And then one last thing before we close out the show, Dave Cavill, spineless behavior from you. Spineless behavior to let that team go to Las Vegas. Rooted in Oakland? I don't think so. Not that, from the behavior that you've shown, it's all BS. So I just wanted to make sure I said that since I had this platform. Again, this is my opinion, but I think a lot of Bay Area sports fans feel the same way. So again, go check out quakesepicenter.com. Make sure you like and subscribe to our show and turn on those notifications. And we hope to see you next time after the next Quakes game. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.